Now let us come to order, and kindly take your neighbor's hands so that we can pray, and make sure you give the hand back at the end of the prayer. Let us pray. Enduring God of endless mercy, we thank you for the chance to thank you. For there are many who ought to thank you who don't, and many who want to thank you who can't. But we are yet alive in this place to see each other's face, and so for the high and unequal privilege of being able to give you thanks, we give you thanks. We thank you more, O Lord, that on this day that we are reminded that long ago, in property not far from this place, a native son was being fashioned and trained in this very high school for a destiny that he may not have fully understood, but that he most surely answered. And therefore we give you thanks today for the life of Vincent Gray. We give you thanks that he was a person who understood from the formation of this school, from the life of the neighborhoods that produced him, and from the education that he received, that he had a place and a destiny, and that place and destiny was with those who are often forgotten but are needed the most. And so he became a voice for people that had mental disabilities when others just sought to warehouse them away. He became the founder of a place where teenagers who were thrown out of their houses and thrown out of hope could go and find a place of restoration and destiny for themselves. He became a person who served on our council in a ward, then as its chairman, and as the city's mayor. But more, O Lord, on this night we thank you that he read the memo of greatness that too many have yet to see. That memo says, he who would be great among you must first be the servant, and he who would be greatest among you must be the servant of all. And therefore we thank you that he can look over his shoulder with a legacy as a leader, as a council member, as a chairperson, and as an advocate, to know that there's some child today that's better off because he cared. There's some senior citizen that's living in a house because he cared. There's some young person whose life would have been a disorder if there had not been a covenant house or a place to go because he cared. And in this time of suffocating narcissism where we only preoccupy ourselves with ourselves, it is good to know that we can celebrate at least one life that thought more of others than for self. So we pray your presence in this place. We pray also your anointing upon this evening. And more, we pray for the administration which is to come, that administration, like this and others before it, will understand that progress in our city is necessary and wonderful. But progress that comes at the loss of homes for senior citizens, of a place for the poor, of care for the young, is not progress at all. So fashion in these days to come administrations and leaders that will make sure that the motto of this city is the reality for all of its citizens. Justitia omnibus. Justice for all. This is our prayer, which we offer in the name of him who stood out on nothing and reached into nowhere, and by the speaking of a voice brought time from eternity, the one that was before there was or was, and the one that shall be when is and was are no more, the one who invaded this earth in poverty, but who now reigns as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. It is in your name, O Lord, we ask this prayer. Let the people of God say, Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Dr. Anthony. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our mayor, Mayor Vincent C. Gray.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Well, good evening, everybody. Good evening. I have this temptation to say, don't stop. I want to, in addition to saying good evening to all of you, I also want to thank Reverend Louis Anthony, who is a longtime dear friend. And there may be some who are more eloquent than him, but I don't think I've heard them. And I want to thank him for answering the call and the request tonight to come and be a part of this. Thank you, Reverend Anthony, for being who you are, what you are, and being such a great friend of the District of Columbia. I also want to thank, I think there's at least 2 council members who are here. I want to thank them. First of all, Councilmember Jim Graham, who I think is here, who served for 16 years. Stand up, Jim. Jim, I want to thank you for the service that you have provided to this city. 16 years of unselfish, selfless commitment and dedication to the people of Ward 1, but so many of the issues that you worked on are issues that affect everybody in the District of Columbia. And I want to thank you for everything that you have done for the District of Columbia. I also want to thank my council member for being here, represents Ward 7. I appreciate Council Member Alexander for coming out tonight. I was this Ward 7 council member before her and have certainly enjoyed working with her. Thank you very much, Yvette, for coming out and being a part of this. I also want to thank some other people. I want to thank Alan. I want to thank Chris. I want to thank Sheila. I want to thank Paul. I want to thank Bibi, Abby, Victor, Jeff, Eric, Janine, James, Irv, Jean, Pedro, and Doxy. And many of you are sitting out there saying, who in the heck are they, right? They are the people who are part of our senior staff, incredibly talented and bright folks who we meet every Monday for 2 hours if we're lucky. Sometimes it's a little bit longer. And I want to personally thank them for the work that they have done to help move this city forward. Thank you, guys. I want to applaud you. Isn't this a great building? Yeah.
I am proud to have gone to Dunbar High School, not this one, and not the one that preceded this one either. For those of you who remember the last Dunbar before this one, I couldn't wait for the wrecking ball to hit that school, because it really was not the kind of fitting educational environment for our children, right, Carrie? And we've tried to do better. This school is on the same footprint as the Dunbar High School that and I think there's some of my classmates who are here tonight as well. I want to thank them for coming out. This school is on the same footprint and frankly is far more fitting as an educational environment for our children. So I'm glad you all are here to be a part of the new Paul Lawrence, the great Paul Lawrence Dunbar High School. And I'm just proud to have been a graduate of this school and proud to be here tonight to be a part of this presentation tonight. My son is here. Carlos. Stand up, Carlos. And my brother-in-law is here, who I actually call my brother because he's closer to me as a brother. Ken Goodson. Ken. And, to the others of you, again, thank you so much for coming out tonight to be a part of this. I want you to know that it has been the greatest honor of my life to serve for the last 4 years as your mayor of the District of Columbia. And we have come so far as a city during that time. We've made so much progress in so many areas that it's hard to say goodbye to what I think is the absolute greatest job in the world. And anybody who has a chance to serve in this job is absolutely blessed and should thank the people of the District of Columbia for the opportunity to serve, at least on most days anyway. Some days are not all that great. We live in an exceptional city. But you all are what makes it like no other. The residents who breathe vitality in every corner of the District of Columbia. It frankly is the people of the District of Columbia, the people that I had a chance to meet and talk to every day, who make this tough job more than worthwhile. And it is on your behalf that I have given my all, the best I could do, every single day. I think many of you know that I use a lot of sports metaphors, and so I want you to know, too, that I did the best I could to leave it all on the field every day when we went out to play the game, and I'll be forever grateful for every one of you giving me the chance and the opportunity to be able to be the mayor of the District of Columbia. But tonight is more than just giving me a chance to say thank you. It is a moment to celebrate what I think is real and measurable progress that our administration has made for the city that we all love. We are one city, and we are stronger together as a result of it. When I was inaugurated 4 years ago, that'll be 4 years ago next month, or was it 44 years ago? And before you all will remember, those of you there, the great Chuck Brown, who now has passed on, and his band took the stage. I had a chance to lay out the ambitions that we had for my term in office. I promised that we would restore fiscal discipline and put the district's fiscal house in order. I promised that we would create jobs and put people back to work. I promised that we would expand economic development beyond the downtown core and into our neighborhoods. I promised that we would continue to strengthen our education system to ensure that our children get a first-class education that they deserve. And I promised that we would make our communities safer. So now people who remember and reflect back on that probably know that I never got into this job for political reasons. I don't even consider myself a politician. I mean, you are thrust into politics because this is the job that you have, but I would never evaluate my opportunity to be in this job on some political basis. It would all be because it was an opportunity to be able to try and lift up the people of this city with my personal philosophy of one city underlying every decision that we made. And for those who don't know, what I meant by that, of course, is that it's a city where one's neighborhood or one's background doesn't define one's future. It means one city where we work together, one city where we work together to make the district a place where we all have a reasonable chance to be able to achieve our dreams. And governing that way, we have made the district stronger working together. Let me take you back to January of 2011 when I took office. Given where we are today, it's easy to forget the magnitude of the challenges that we faced then. Unemployment was sky high and rising. The city's rainy day fund, Eric, was rapidly being depleted, as you well know. Multiple economic development projects were stalled, Victor, due to a lack of financing or bureaucratic challenges. The city was expected to face a major budget deficit in the next fiscal year, and a number of long-standing problems were draining the district's monetary and human resources. And so we quickly got to work. 4 years later, I'm proud to say that the district is stronger today than any moment in our history, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I think you know that fiscal responsibility may not sound all that glamorous, but frankly it is the foundation for everything that a government does. Even the most well-intentioned plans fail if you can't pay for them. So when I took office, I inherited a city whose finances were in significant decline. The district's savings account had been spent down from a peak back in the, around 2006, 2005, a peak of $1.5 billion in fiscal year 2000, $1.5 billion in fiscal year 2007. It was spent down to under $1 billion. And it was projected actually to fall to $705 million. And because of that, my first priority had to be to restore stability and discipline to the district's budget and finances. When I proposed my first budget, the district faced a $322 million gap between what we were projected to spend and the revenue that we were expected to bring in the door. About 1/3 of this decline was due to the recession, the Great Recession. But the rest was caused by a failure to control spending, resulting in excess spending of more than $200 million. Wall Street, our rating agencies, had placed the district's bond ratings on negative outlook, and we actually were at the brink of a downgrade, which of course would have ultimately cost the district millions of dollars more per year in higher interest payments. In fiscal year 2012, which was the first budget that we had the opportunity to prepare on my watch, I proposed the district's first structurally balanced budget in 3 years, meaning that we would spend only what it is that we took in. And I went on to complete, with my colleagues that I mentioned earlier and the cabinet, we completed 3 more back-to-back balanced budgets. I created a spending pressure task force whose mission was to mitigate overspending and improve efficiency. This, coupled with our tremendously successful economic development strategies, resulted in significant annual budget surpluses every year and a restoration of the district's crucial fund balance from the projected low of $705 million at the end of fiscal year 2011 to today, at the end of 2013, which is the last audit we had, today we have a fund balance of $1,750 million. And I don't have any reservation in saying that it is the highest level in the history of the District of Columbia, ladies and gentlemen. Today, after several upgrades, Wall Street now ranks the district's general obligation bonds at AA. It is the is actually the highest in our history. This means that the District of Columbia gets better interest rates and saves millions of dollars of interest payments, dollars that we've been able to invest in education, affordable housing, and public safety. But, you know, what good is having a great savings account if your people don't have any jobs? When I took office, the district was still reeling from the effects of the Great Recession, which hit many of our most disadvantaged communities especially hard. Today, in no small measure, again due to our employment and economic development strategies put in place by my administration, the district's unemployment rate has fallen dramatically and our economy is booming. We've created 44,000 private sector jobs, and the unemployment rate has steadily fallen by 3 full percentage points, from 10.4% in mid-2011 to today, 7.4%, ladies and gentlemen. It's the lowest unemployment rate that we've seen in more than 6 years. Most encouragingly, we've seen the biggest drops in wards 5, 7, and 8, the hardest areas hit by the recession. In those 3 wards, respectively, we've seen the unemployment rate fall by 27%, 24%, and 25% in each one of those areas. And that is huge. You know, when I came into office, the unemployment rate, Sandy, in Ward 8 was over 26%. And while it is still high, it is down to right around 17% at this stage, which means it's going in the right direction, ladies and gentlemen. How did this happen? There's no single answer to that, but part of the answer traces back to a day, Victor, which I know you'll remember, in September of 2011, with the district's unemployment rate then at a 30-year high. I stood with those who were working with me, with the Department of Employment Services, to launch the One City, One Hire program. And just 3 years later, this innovative, award-winning program, cited by Harvard University, has now reached an ambitious goal of helping to match 11,000 previously unemployed residents with jobs, connecting them with nearly 1,200 participating employers, people who stepped up and said, we want to be a part of getting people back to work in the District of Columbia. That's 11,000 residents who got to work because the government and the private sector partnered to help raise them up. We also improved the district's summer youth employment program, which I think we all know is a legacy of the great late Marion Barry, something he created back in 1979. We have hired each year about 15,000 young people who have gotten relevant and valuable work experience during the last 4 years that they've been involved with this program. And we did it with extensive fiscal and operational controls. We put those in place in order to ensure that every dollar spent on the Summer Youth Employment Program goes to support the vocational growth and development of our youth in the District of Columbia. Our people also got to work in part because of the economic development strategies that we pursued. Over the last 4 years, the district has seen dramatic economic growth and neighborhood development, Alex. You know Shaw better than anybody in the District of Columbia, and I think we're slated to have 16 ribbon cuttings before the year is out, right? In addition to the 15 that we've already had in one area of the city. So bringing jobs and retail and other amenities to Shaw and every other part of the city has been one of our important strategies to be able to get to where we are today. Some of the largest projects, like City Market at O Street, City Center, the Skyland Town Center, which has been a challenge. The former Macmillan sand filtration site. Everybody knows where Macmillan is, right? The shops at Dakota Crossing, where there's our first Costco in the District of Columbia. All of those projects have been stalled for years before I took office. In fact, I do strange things. I guess I do a lot of strange things, actually. But I sometimes ride through the parking lot at Costco. And I ride through the parking lot because I want to see the tags. Because as you will recall, Victor, one of our goals was to end retail leakage. Anybody know what retail leakage is? It means to get people to stop going to Maryland and Virginia who live in the District of Columbia and spend your money in the city. So I've ridden through the parking lot, and what I've seen is that half the tags are people who live in the District of Columbia, and the other half are people whose cars are registered in Maryland and Virginia, which means we are ending retail leakage in the District of Columbia, and we're helping to create it in Maryland and Virginia because they come into the District of Columbia to shop. These projects have been stuck in red tape and legal entanglements, and they hadn't had the kind of city support that they needed and deserved, as well as the attention. Our team went to work, and 4 years later, 96 major projects have been completed or are under construction, representing an investment in the District of Columbia of nearly $8 billion. What that is doing, ladies and gentlemen, is helping to create jobs, to build housing, generating tax revenue that we are reinvesting in things like education and affordable housing. We're also looking to the future, moving forward on several critical development projects for which groundwork must be laid in order to be able to come to fruition down the road. One of those is a monumental deal that our administration worked hard to bring to fruition, ensuring that the district will continue to be home to our successful DC United soccer team. I want to thank our council, Jim and Yvette. I want to thank all of you for the votes that were cast just today at the council's legislative session. Now, we've had monumental battles over convention centers and stadia in the District of Columbia. When the convention center was, I was talking to Jack Evans about it, and Jack Evans has a history on everything because he's been on the council for 23 years. But 8-5 vote barely got through. The stadium for baseball barely got through. A 7-6 vote Today's vote for the soccer stadium was 13-0. 12-0, ladies and gentlemen, 12-0. And I do think that if Marion Barry had been here, it would have been 13-0. You know, a world-class soccer stadium will now rise on what is currently unused industrial land at Buzzard Point. It's quite a name, and I hope we get rid of that name, Buzzard Point. This will be a catalytic development that will connect the southwest waterfront with the rapidly developing area around Nationals Park, and will create, not only create jobs and revenues from the facility itself, but also secondary housing and retail development in the area around it. So National Stadium will be on one side and the soccer stadium will be on the other, and watch what happens in that area, ladies and gentlemen. Watch what happens to that development. Likewise, we worked closely with the federal government to advance the development of the Walter Reed site in Ward 4. And we have selected what I think is a great development team to be able to help us, the city, accomplish that. If everything goes according to plan, next year the Army will transfer the property to the District of Columbia, and at long last, construction will begin to transform the historic former military hospital site into a thriving community mixing old and new buildings. In fact, for those of you who didn't follow it, the first parcel was actually transferred 2 weeks ago by the Department of the Army. And what we'll be able to do with that is to develop a new fire station that will replace a fire station that actually was built in 1897. One of the fire officials was telling me the other day that, because he's a long-standing official, he said, "We've been promised a new fire station since 1986. That's a long time ago, ladies. Just do the math. What is that, almost 30 years? And there will be a new fire station to replace the one on Georgia Avenue that will be one of the first buildings developed on the Walter Reed site. We've also done similar catalytic work at St. Elizabeth's in Ward 8. We've made major progress in operating a long-awaited anchor for new jobs and amenities on the District of Columbia controlled side, which is the east side of the St. Elizabeth's campus. We're investing more than $50 million to rehabilitate the historic buildings, and we're building a major technology center there. Last year, we opened the gorgeous new, I don't know if you haven't seen the Gateway Pavilion, you all have missed something. We opened a brand new Gateway Center, Gateway Pavilion, and we now have letters of intent. You know, I didn't say anything about this until we actually had it in hand, because people really thought I was, you know, a candidate to be admitted to St. Elizabeth's if I had said this. But we have letters of intent from 3 firms, Sidlam, Vimtrek, and the first technology center outside of their headquarters in Redland, Washington in the United States is Microsoft. Microsoft. Man, if I had said Microsoft was coming to Ward 8 of the District of Columbia, they would have put me in a straitjacket and taken me out of here. And immediately had a recall. We also have built the RISE Center, and I want to thank the community for working so closely with us in helping to make that happen. Anybody remember the chapel at St. Elizabeth's Hospital? Well, the chapel wasn't used very much anymore, so we decided to convert that. It was converted into the RISE Center, which is a demonstration center that was opened on the grounds, and I was talking to Catherine Buell the other day, and she says it's used almost every day, which is fantastic because it wasn't used on any days prior to that. And there are people who are in this audience who know that, who helped us make that happen, Mary. And again, it was a project that was done not for the community, but with the community, so that it reflected what they wanted to see in the new RISE Center. And that is just the beginning. at St. Elizabeth's. In the RISE Center, by the way, we've established programming. We are working through partnerships with Microsoft, as well as Dr. Lyons, the University of the District of Columbia, to help catalyze economic growth in Ward 8 of the District of Columbia. Now, let me take a moment to say something about my commitment to what some people call East of the River. I stopped calling it East of the River because you know what? Whether people want to admit it or not, as soon as you say East of the River, people think other side of the tracks. Well, people who live in Ward 7 and 8, and I happen to be one who lives in Ward 7, don't think of it as the other side of the tracks, all right? So I started calling it the East End. We have a West End in the District of Columbia, right? We just had a groundbreaking on the West End. So now we have the East End of the District of Columbia, and we're working hard on that. We've focused unprecedented time, energy, and resources on the economic development needs of communities in Wards 7 and 8, where, frankly, as we know, even though we've made progress, we still have a great need for jobs and other amenities. Not only is it the right thing to do, to focus on communities that have long been neglected by government and business, but it is critical to the general well-being of the overall city. To paraphrase Martin Luther King, Jr., the District of Columbia could never be what it ought to be until we help the east end of the city also be what it ought to be, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I'm pleased that the conversation has really elevated in the city around what goes on for some east of the river, for me on the east end, and I hope that conversation continues. But I hope it's not just a conversation. We need to continue the progress. I've talked directly to people who live on the east end of the District of Columbia and other stakeholders. We did it by convening community and economic development summits in Ward 7 and 8. And the purpose of that was to identify the pressing needs and spur district agencies to develop programs, innovative programs, to promote and enhance retail, entrepreneurship, and job creation. And I think, Mary, I think we're making steady progress, important progress, that in the years to come will yield absolutely extraordinary results. Now, I can't move from the subject of economic development without touching on a project especially near to my heart. It's also a place where I live, in Ward 7. And that, of course, is the long-awaited Skyland Town Center. After more than 3 decades of legal challenges, and Irv, I want to thank you for leading the effort to help sweep away some of those obstacles that we had. Our great Attorney General, Irv Nathan, is here with us tonight. Irv, thank you so much for working on Skyland. And, some of the other barriers. For those who haven't seen it recently, work has finally begun to transform the former shopping center, if you can call it that, the former place where there was a bunch of buildings that purported to be a place where people could and should shop. We're now transforming that into a retail town center that will include market rate housing and will include affordable housing. And for those who have not seen it recently, demolition is now 90% complete. We've been working almost every day on this. I want you all to look forward to an announcement, which we think hopefully will come in days, just days. I guess it better come in just days for me, right? About a major retail anchor that we think, if we're fortunate, will come in the next few days. That once we get that done, Victor, I think it'll be smooth sailing. Well, it's never smooth sailing on these things. It'll be smoother sailing now once we get that done. Now, one of the important things is that we can't be content to focus on moving forward on important economic development just in the present. In the reality of things, the federal government is entering a new period of fiscal austerity and downsizing. And we have to acknowledge, frankly, that the district is undergoing enormous economic change. Therefore, we have redoubled our efforts to diversify the economy and develop and grow the district's private sector and the jobs that it offers. That is why my administration, under our then Deputy Mayor's leadership, Victor Hoskins, developed a 5-year economic development strategy, which serves as a roadmap for growing and diversifying the district's economy. The strategy identifies 6 bold visions, a strategy that is moving the city towards creating 100,000 new jobs and generating $1 billion in new tax revenue. And we're making great progress. We just finished the 2nd year of that effort, and we are, in just 2 years of implementation, we're nearly halfway there on both of those goals based on the metrics that we've generated already. For example, one exciting area with strong potential for economic growth in the District of Columbia is technology. And we've dedicated a lot of time to the district's tech sector. We have invested significantly in several tech incubators and initiatives, like the creation of 1776. That was one of the first investments. We were the first investor, I think, in the District of Columbia in 1776. We invested $200,000, thinking that if that's where we want to go, we had to help those who could create opportunities to move that forward. The 1776 is a global hub for startups, tackling major cross-sector challenges. And we launched Digital DC, a marketing, branding, and economic development initiative that aims to promote the District of Columbia as the leading community for the innovation and high-tech economy. This includes the establishment of a tech corridor along Georgia Avenue, running from Shaw, Alex, all the way up to Petworth. And we also have set up a tech fund, and we're providing grants that range anywhere from $25,000 to $250,000 through that tech fund to promising tech companies that we think could help grow that economy here in the District of Columbia. We also recognize that burdensome bureaucratic requirements can interfere with the ability of tech companies and other small businesses to open and thrive and remain in the District of Columbia. And so in 2013, I appointed a business regulatory task force to make recommendations to address those challenges. And Nick Majette, who was then our DCRA director, was the co-chair of that. Then Nick, of course, got recruited and became the chief administrative officer for the Prince George's County executive. Smart move on his part, Nick. What that resulted in, one of the recommendations, key recommendations, was creation of the One City Business Portal that will come online in 2015. When it does, for the first time in district history, business will be able to go to a consolidated website to access the permitting, licensing, and other registration functions of several district agencies. In fact, I think we'll be able to do 8 agencies simultaneously with that new portal. Can you imagine having that kind of convenience available to you? And you all that are resisting technology, you better get with it, guys. You know, for those who who are working with us, as we focus on ensuring that the district economy will continue to create enough good jobs for current and future residents, my administration has not forgotten about the longtime district residents who find it increasingly difficult to continue to live in the District of Columbia as it becomes more expensive. The district is growing rapidly, ladies and gentlemen. It's adding more than 1,100 people a month and is now bigger, by the way, than the entire state of Vermont and bigger than the entire state of Wyoming. And tell North Dakota that we're coming for them, all right? We have the largest population now in this city than we've had since the 1970s. But, you know, it doesn't do us any good to be able to embrace a prosperous future if we neglect those who have made the district their home for their entire lives. For those who don't know, is frankly the reason why I have focused so much on affordable housing. In the early months of my term, it became clear that housing affordability was an issue of concern to a huge sector of the district's residents and leaders. It was an idea that was confirmed, frankly, by the 2012 One City Summit that we had at the Convention Center, and I think there are people here tonight who were involved in helping us put together that plan that emanated from that summit. In response, I moved aggressively to bolster the district's supply of affordable housing. We have made unprecedented investments in expanding the district's supply of affordable housing for lower and middle income residents and worked hard, frankly, to ensure longtime residents are not pushed out of their homes in the District of Columbia. That's not progress, ladies and gentlemen, if the only people who can live in the District of Columbia are people who make $100,000 or more. That is not only not progress, it's just unconscionable and unprincipled. And I certainly was not going to stand by and let that happen. In 2012, I created a comprehensive housing strategy task force to advise me on the right strategies and the right amount of affordable housing that we needed to build. When I received the report, I wholeheartedly embraced its recommendations, committing to building or preserving 10,000 units of affordable housing by the year 2020. It's what we call the 10 by 20 goal. I'm proud to say, I'm very proud of where we are. We not only are going to meet that goal, but we are projected to exceed that goal by more than 20%. Already, more than 6,500 units have been completed or are currently under construction, and another 6,000 are in the pipeline that will be completed by 2020. So instead of having 10,000 units of housing constructed or preserved, we're on course now to make it 12,500, and I actually think we can exceed that, ladies and gentlemen. Now, to realize that commitment, during my time in office, I have invested more than $500 million in creating and preserving affordable housing. This includes $317 million in our Housing Production Trust Fund, which frankly is more than any other mayor's 4-year term in the District of Columbia. Now, while housing is important, that's only one facet of things. The issue that is frankly as critical as any to the future of the District of Columbia is the continued reform of our education system. When I took office, I ensured stability right away by naming Kaya Henderson as the Chancellor of the D.C. Public Schools, and I ensured more equity in public resources and stronger coordination between DCPS and the district's robust system of public charter schools. Those relationships, frankly, ladies and gentlemen, were absolutely horrid. And those are our children. I don't care whether they're going to the traditional public schools or the public charter schools. Those are our children. We have now 36,000 children in public charter schools. So why would we punish those who go into public charter schools and essentially say to them and their families that if you go to a DC public school, you get a better deal? So we worked with our education team, and we doubled down on the most successful elements of education reform, like longer school days, and one of the things I'm especially proud of, early childhood education. And I think, although I'm obviously not objective, but I think it's paid off. District students have made significant gains in scores on the DC CAS test over the last several years. Overall, since 2007, district students have achieved 23 percentage point growth in math scores, 14 percentage point growth in reading, and 16 percentage point growth in science. The gains in the DC CAS scores track gains that district students have made on the National Assessment of Educational Progress, which we don't administer, of course, or the NAEP test, as well as the tutor. One measures states, the other measures cities. Aren't they forward-thinking that they treat us both as a state and a city, ladies and gentlemen? In 2013, the District of Columbia led the nation in growth on the NAEP scores. And I think we all know we're not where we need to be yet, but we are on the right track. And each year, more and more families choosing the district's public schools, with the people doing that, public school enrollment has grown steadily in both sectors being traditional DC public schools and charters. Our enrollment now is right around 86,000 students, which is the highest enrollment in public education in the city in 27 years, ladies and gentlemen. 27 years. And I'm proud to say that we continue to see growth at the pre-K3 level. And I watch, right, Abby? We watch that data very closely. We have pre-K4 enrollment is kind of leveled off. And the reason for that is an indication that we have achieved near universal access for 4-year-olds. We have 80% of our 3-year-olds that go to school all day, every day. We have 94% of our 4-year-olds that go to school all day, every day, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to thank my dear friend Carrie Thornhill, who has been on this journey from the very beginning, and others of our colleagues who work with us to move the Pre-K Expansion Act, which I don't think anybody fully understood it other than a few people in the District of Columbia, but we got it through the council. I will never forget as long as I live, that it was recommended that we go to, and it wasn't the Washington Post, okay, that we go to an editorial board at a paper in the District of Columbia. And we went there, and it didn't make any sense to me why we were going there, but we went anyway because it was recommended. And this person who was on the editorial board conducted the interview and asked us a lot of questions. And the editorial that came out was one of the absolute dumbest that I have ever seen. It essentially said that this is a really bad idea because children ought to be at home with their parents at those ages. And I want to say, lady, have you been to all the families in the District of Columbia? Do you have any clue what you're talking about? And it was such a stupid idea that we immediately ignored it and went right ahead, with what it is that we wanted to do. We have had 100% growth in pre-K enrollment from when we started, this effort when I became the mayor. And frankly, I don't have any reservations about saying that we are now the best in the nation in pre-K enrollment, ladies and gentlemen. And I kind of keep up with these data also. Vermont is second to us in terms of serving 3-year-olds. We have 80%. They have 21%. Florida is second to us in 4-year-olds. We have 94%. They have 78% of 4-year-olds that they serve. But you know, while a lot of folks are still focusing on having the debate about how many children are being served, we kind of moved on from that. We've shifted our focus now to trying to increase the quality of the services that we provide to these very young children. You know, it's okay to get these kids in school, but there is no substitute for being able to say that they not only are going to school, but we're also concerned about the quality of what we do. And so we are in the process, the district is in the process of working now. Come on, guys. We're working on establishing an innovative community-based quality improvement network that will allow children and families to benefit from comprehensive child development and family support engagement services. Just last week, I don't know how many of you all saw this, but President Obama, we've been waiting for him to realize that he lives in the District of Columbia, okay? We got a grant from President Obama that would support our work on early childhood education, a grant of $900,000 that will invest in continuing to upgrade our early childhood education efforts. All that's good, but also school buildings as well reflect a community's investment in its children's education. And better buildings create better learning environments. On our watch, the district's ongoing school modernization efforts were accelerated, and nearly 30 schools have been modernized. They include Cardozo High School. Now, y'all know, anybody connected to Dunbar know we better not do Dunbar without doing Cardozo High School, right? It includes the building of a brand new H.D. Woodson High School, the complete renovation of Anacostia High School, and I was at a ribbon cutting today that I was enormously proud of, and that is for the brand new Ballou High School in Ward 8. If you all have not seen Ballou, you owe yourself the opportunity to go and see it. We were in the auditorium today that had not just a second level, it had a third level. There were three levels in that auditorium. You know, and you know, my worrying went right to the bottom line, and that is, man, we got 3 tiers in here. I hope nobody throws somebody out, you know, of that third balcony, you know, in terms of people playing around and whatnot. But it is absolutely stunningly beautiful. We have invested in Ballou High School, the new Ballou High School, almost $150 million in order to create But do you know what that does, what the statement is that's made to people who live on the east end of the District of Columbia? It makes a statement that our kids are just as valued and just as valuable as children anywhere else in the District of Columbia. And that's the kind of investment we need to continue to make. I'm proud. I think we invested in this school $125 million in the creation and development, building of a new DUNBAR High School, right down New York Avenue. If you're going west, look to your right. If you're going east, look to your left. And when you get, coming past the New York Avenue playground, you will see it frames this high school. And what a beautiful campus is. Doesn't this look like a cute college campus here? Go out and look at the stadium. And by the way, we got some of the best stadiums in the District of Columbia at this stage. Our stadiums are second to none. And now we even had one of the Catholic schools, WCAC schools, the Washington Catholic Athletic Conference schools, Gonzaga, which is rebuilding its stadium. They played their football games, home games this year at Coolidge High School. Now, when would that have happened before? Not ever. So, I'll talk to you till your ear falls off, about. And I'll talk to you about Dunbar High School. And there are more. there are more schools that are slated to come. We have projects that are underway at Roosevelt. That will be finished next fall. We have the Duke Ellington School for the Performing Arts, and when that is finished, that will be the finest physical facility in the nation. And by the way, we had a video today at the Ballou ribbon cutting from Denise Graves, who grew up actually in the catchment area that would include Ballou, but she, of course, attended Duke Ellington and now is probably the finest operatic singer in the world at this point. In fact, the video was being made somewhere in Europe or somewhere, and she said she was happy to be a part of it, and we appreciated it. We got Lafayette, we got Van Ness, we got Garrison, we got Murch, we got the River Terrace Education Campus, Councilmember Alexander. And for those of you who don't know, the Education Campus will bring together what now is Sharp Health School and Mamie D. Lee under one roof. That modernization has been going on all this year, and next September, those two populations will be combined. They each have a little less than 100 kids in those schools, and they will be combined into one campus at River Terrace. And we also have the Marie Reed Center as well. Now, I think we know that our charter schools need good homes as well as any other schools. And on our watch, we've awarded 16 surplus DCPS schools to be repurposed as public charter schools. This is more than twice as many as in the 4 years prior to our administration. And I guess, Abby, we might have more coming before the month is out, maybe more before the week is out. And if that's the case, we got 2 days to be able to do that, right? It again speaks of what is our value that we place on education when we make buildings available to schools, irrespective of whether it's a DC traditional public school or whether it's a charter school. But I think we also know that alone buildings won't get the job done. There's investments that have to go into the supporting of the work that's underway inside of our schools. In the last 4 years, public education grew in each of our budgets, which culminated this year in a historic investment of $112 million additionally invested in public education in the schools of our District of Columbia. This included a $60 million investment in a new at-risk weighted target towards students who are at great risk for academic failure. We've also been addressing, which for those of you who heard my background, you know how important it is to me. We've also been addressing special education students in a big way in public schools. Some of you will remember, most of you won't, I suspect, but in my first State of the District speech, I said that we were going to reduce the number of students in private, non-public tuition placements by 50%. And where did I get that number? I was standing at a microphone just like this, and I made it up while I was standing there. I knew we had to do better than what we were doing, that children need a good education, and our children get a good education in many of our private schools, but that shouldn't be an excuse for public schools not to serve all children. And so we have seen today, as of today, we've seen a 56% reduction in private school placements for children with disabilities. Jesus, we've gone from 2,204 down to 975. Is that right? And we're going in the right direction, ladies and gentlemen. And it's not moving kids for the sake of moving kids, because that's wrong also. It should be moving children because we've created capacity in our public education system to be able to serve those children just like anybody else. We've taken the budget savings that we've achieved as well as increases in the local budget local special education funding, and we've plowed it back into creating more dollars for our public education system to be able to serve these children. When I came into office, we were spending $168 million on children in private placements. We've now reduced that number down to $75 million, and we've plowed that money back into creating better public special education programs for our children with disabilities. It allows our children to be served closer to home, as the law requires, and as a result, the district, and Irv, I know you'll have a great appreciation for this, we've been able to exit 3 consent decrees that resulted from decades-old special education litigation. We were in court yesterday, in federal court with Judge Friedman, and this was on the Jones portion of the Blackman-Jones case. The Petty's case we'd already exited that one. And it was great for him to say, we were hoping that he would, give a ruling very quickly. And he just said from the bench that based on this joint motion, based on what's been done with this effort, I am granting the motion to exit this case, and it is over. It's the first time in decades. First time in decades that special education in the District of Columbia has not been under some kind of federal court order. We're also betting heavily on returning 21st century vocational education to our schools. Why did we ever eliminate vocational education? We've created 6 new we've created career academies at 6 high schools, and 2 of those are in charter schools, and the others are in traditional D.C. public schools. We've done it in concert with the National Academy Foundation, and the NAF academies will prepare students in 3 of the district's most vital and fastest growing career sectors: information technology, engineering, and hospitality. I mean, it shouldn't be rocket science to say we're trying to prepare kids in fields that we know are going to exist in the future, right? It's one of the reasons why, unfortunately, vocational education was gotten rid of. It was because people were being prepared for jobs that no longer existed. But we threw the baby out with the bathwater. We should have then retooled vocational education to something that was more contemporary and more consistent. We have worked hard, and I want to thank Deputy Mayor Smith for the work that she has done to help us navigate, help parents navigate our complex education system much easier, our families to be able to navigate it much easier. For the first time last year, families were able to use a single online application to be able to apply to DCPS and most of our public charter schools through My School DC. And if you haven't seen it, you ought to see it. It is phenomenal what it is doing to make access to public education so much more understandable here in the District of Columbia. It is also helping to support our first ever common lottery system here in the District of Columbia. In its first year, we received over 17,000 applications from families who were interested in attending one of 200 DCPS or public charter schools. 85% of the applicants were offered a seat at one of their top 3 school choices. They just had a school fest, an Ed Fest, I guess it was, at the Armory that I went to 2-3 weeks ago. And there must have been 5,000 people who showed up there that day. And there were almost every public school, charter and public education school, and traditional public education had an exhibit there so that parents could talk to them and learn more about what it is that those schools offer. Our lottery, I think, just went online just Monday. And in just 2 days, we've had more than 3,000 families who have submitted applications for public education in the District of Columbia. We also have tackled one of the most complicated projects in the history of this city, and that is the school boundaries and school assignment. It had not been addressed in 46 years. And again, Deputy Mayor Smith helped to lead that effort. We had a group that came together to work with her. They spent a year working on that. And at the end of the day, they had a set of recommendations. We talked about it probably every week for a year. And by the end of that process, they had a set of recommendations that were based on a lot of engagement with the community, a lot of data that had been generated and analyzed, and I adopted every one of those recommendations to create a roadmap for strengthening how children are assigned, and hopefully will have a chance to go to their neighborhood schools. So we've been waiting, again, for 46 years. We promised to do this at least once every 46 years, ladies and gentlemen, to review these. But, you know, again, it would have been unconscionable to wait any longer in this process. And there were people who advised me to leave it alone, that it was politically a hot potato. I said, well, why would I come to this job and not take on the tough issues? You know, people will advise you always. I wasn't going to be I wasn't going to wait any longer. How many people have you heard to describe something you should do and describe it as low-hanging fruit? You ever heard that expression before? And I've said to them, anybody can do that. If it's low-hanging fruit, what is the challenge associated with that? And what difference is that going to make in the lives of people? Let's do the hard stuff, man. Let's do the difficult stuff. And that's exactly what we've tried to do. So I decided I wasn't going to wait any longer. It was just unconscionable to continue to wait because, you know, if we're going to wait because it was politically risky, that was not me. That's not what I want to do. It was the right thing to do, to take bold action, and that's exactly what we have done to be able to move this effort forward. This was one of those times, frankly, when you just step up and say, swallow hard, whatever comes with it, you take it. And if you know what you're doing is the right thing, and if you feel like the direction you're going is the right thing, then get on out there and defend it. Don't be afraid of it. Just get out there and defend it. What's going to happen? Somebody won't like it in the District of Columbia? We have that happen every day, ladies and gentlemen. So we also have worked to be able to create, for the first time ever, a re-engagement center to get students back on track in the District of Columbia who've gotten disconnected. This fall, we opened that first center. It's the first ever re-engagement center to reconnect youth with educational options and other critical services here in the District of Columbia. We have somewhere in the neighborhood of 7,500 children, young people between the ages of 16 and 24 who are disconnected, and this will give them a chance to get a high school diploma or a GED. And it also will reinforce the work that our interagency task force on truancy has done. And truancy, by the way, has come down tremendously in the District of Columbia. Truancy being defined, of course, as kids who just don't go to school. We had a 25% reduction in chronic truancy rates between 2013 and 2014 in that school year. You know, in addition to providing students with a world-class education, our children and families also deserve world-class recreation and community spaces as well. Through our D.C. initiative, we've completely refurbished 42 district playgrounds in every ward of the city. That's nearly half of all the playgrounds in the city. I want to thank Eric Goulet, who is our budget director, who's been very involved in that effort since the very beginning. We've invested in serving neighborhoods all across the city. Isn't that novel, ladies and gentlemen? If you live in the District of Columbia, you have a chance to have a playground in your city that will get rehabilitated and renovated and upgraded. We have neighborhood learning centers that are known as our public libraries, of course. Since 2011, we have completely modernized 7 neighborhood libraries into state-of-the-art community resources. Our library's okay, man. They look pretty good now, don't they? In addition to that, we have 2 more libraries that are under construction. We've got Woodbridge in Ward 5, and we just broke ground on Monday on the West End Library. See, I told you, if you have a West End, you got to have an East End, okay? They don't deserve to have that end stuff, all devoted to one part of the city. An additional library modernization is on the horizon as well. We've got projects that are slated. We've got our downtown library that's going to be upgraded, and also for those of you living whatever area, if you go to Cleveland Park, Palisades, and Capitol View, are also slated to be modernized in the next couple of years. And then we're going to completely rebuild, it's an ambitious plan, the downtown library, transforming the Martin Luther King Jr. Library. We approved a budget a year ago for $103 million to invest in this landmark building, while also simultaneously pushing the boundaries of what it means to be a 21st century knowledge and community center. There will be a variety of other services that will be provided in the King Library. So, for a city that's on the rise, just meeting the basic needs of jobs and housing and education is not quite enough. We have to strive to treat each other as equals with dignity and respect. That is why I have been and will continue to be an outspoken advocate of full equality for all district residents. That is true of immigrants, and that is true of those who are in our LGBT community. I'm really proud. I'm proud of our administration's track record on equity and inclusion in the District of Columbia. First of all, I think we were on the right side of history when, and this is now 5 years ago this month, when as council chairman, I was able to lead the effort around marriage equality in the District of Columbia. And same is true when it comes to undocumented residents, who we have approved a policy now so that undocumented residents will be able to get a driver's license in the District of Columbia while not jeopardizing the district's compliance with the Federal Real ID Act. You know what? It gives people identification. It gives them a legitimate basis for being able to drive. It gives them the ability to get, automobile insurance. And frankly, it reduces the threat of them running into your car because they have a driver's license and they have insurance. We also refuse, some of you may will remember that, we refuse to buy into and implement the flawed Federal Secure Communities program. Basically, they wanted our police force to question people with no law enforcement basis to it, to question people about their immigration status. And I just said, we're not doing that. And so I issued an order, said we're not doing it. And if you don't like it, take me to jail. And we've done that a few times also in this administration. I'm also really especially proud of the great strides that we've made in ensuring full equality for our district's LGBT community. For example, we launched the first ever government-sponsored, first ever sponsored government transgender employment initiative under the Department of Employment Services Project Empowerment Program in the District of Columbia. In 2012, we launched a groundbreaking, first in the nation, transgender and gender identity respect campaign. And it was designed to increase understanding for people who are transgender and gender nonconforming people. What we were working to try to do was curtail discrimination and to increase reporting of discrimination to the Office of Human Rights. Later that year, I was proud to sign the district's Youth Bullying Prevention Act and appoint a Bullying Prevention Task Force. And I said to our then director, Gustavo Velasquez, I said, this is going to go absolutely nowhere unless we get a staff person who is assigned to work on this. So we hired a staff person who works on bullying issues in our Office of Human Rights. And while we haven't eliminated bullying, if you hadn't noticed, and that goes on in circles other than with kids, all right? Anybody notice that also? No, in my neighborhood when I was growing up, they would say, you know, like you smacked the biggest bully right in the mouth. But I'm not advocating that tonight. Our office of under Sterling Washington's leadership has also partnered with law enforcement to solicit community impact statements from the LGBT community in cases of alleged hate crimes that we know still go on in our city also. And I was also very proud to sign into law the Japarker Deani Jones Birth Certificate Equality Act, which allowed people who are undergoing gender transition to receive a new birth certificate more accurately reflecting their gender identity. And I signed the Marriage Efficient Amendment Act. By the way, that gave me a new responsibility, gave me a new opportunity. It allowed couples to be married by officiants other than just a religious celebrant or a judge or a designated clerk. And I've now performed 9 marriages in my capacity. And I've had lots of requests. The first request I had was from Rob and Carlos, not my son, but from Rob and Carlos. They were a same-sex couple, and when you get the book tonight that shows the accomplishments of the administration, you will see the marriage being performed with them. We also earlier this year guaranteed health care equity to residents who are transgender by requiring health insurers to follow the science and recognize gender dysphoria as a medical condition. Chester, where are you? I know you're in here somewhere. There you are. Okay. You helped to lead the effort on helping us make that happen. And basically what we said to people is that policies will have to cover people for this condition in the District of Columbia. We changed the Medicaid rules, and then we told the rest of them that if you don't want to do it, then you're not going to be able to sell insurance in the District of Columbia, so you can just go elsewhere. You can go to Ward 9 and 10 and sell insurance, but you're not going to be able to do it in the District of Columbia. So that has opened the door to people who now can be who they want to be. We have engaged in, I think, some very forward-thinking and bold steps. You know, again, when people tell me to get the low-hanging fruit, that's not the low-hanging fruit, y'all. You know, and there are people who will tell you that they don't think it's a good idea. And so my answer to them is, well, you run for office. If you want to do something different, you run for office, and then you can pursue a different policy then. And thank you very much for your input, because I listen to everybody, but I'm not going to do everything that everybody suggested I should do, because that's not leadership. That's not even good followership, ladies and gentlemen. That's just a whole lot of lip service being given to people. So we also, yeah, and we're getting to the end, all right. We also have worked hard to recognize that the population makeup is changing in this city and across the nation. And there's a lot of growth taking place in our senior populations. We're focused on ensuring that the district is friendly to all age groups. In 2012, I committed to pursuing admission into the World Health Organization and AARP's network of age-friendly cities and communities. We launched the Age-Friendly D.C. initiative to make D.C. the most welcoming and livable for residents of all ages. A short time later, I established a task force that is co-chaired by our outstanding Deputy Mayor, B.B. Otero, and the President of the George Washington University, Steve Knapp. And they have done a great job with Gail Cohn in getting us to where we are today. The strategic plan was just released, I think, last week. And if you haven't read it, rush and get your copy. We're down to our last 15,000 copies, ladies and gentlemen, so you better get one quick. Over the next 3 years, the district will work to implement strategies that are laid out in the plan to ensure that we are more senior-friendly. I also appointed a real property tax ombudsman to work with our Chief Financial Officer, Jeff DeWitt. Thank you for being here tonight, Jeff, and it's been great to be able to work with you for the last year. Jeff came from Phoenix, and really the shoes of Nat Gandhi are hard to fill, but he's done a pretty doggone good job of stepping in, and he is great to work with. Thank you, Jeff, for your collaboration. The Ombudsman is designed to help people who owe back taxes and to prevent people from having their properties. Remember that series of articles in the Post about people whose properties were taken? I'm not sure all of that was accurate, but it never should have gotten to that stage, and that's what the Ombudsman is designed to be able to do. Before any foreclosure moves can move forward, the Ombudsman now reviews and advises on all of these cases and connects seniors with people who can help them from having their home foreclosed. In the 2015 budget, I proposed significant property tax relief for seniors who have been long-term residents of the district. Since you're the only council member, I think, who's left, Councilmember Alexander. Where is she? Where is she? Okay. Well, it was there she is. Okay. It was a bill that was sponsored, introduced by Anita Bonds. I funded it. I funded it to the tune of $8.5 million, and I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but the council took it out. I had somebody at North Michigan Park ask me just last week, hey, Mayor Gray, what happened to that bill that was going to reduce the property taxes for seniors? I said, well, you better go talk to your council members, because we tried it, and it didn't work. We did a town hall meeting. We did a lot of discussion. I urged the council to come back in the next session and bring that bill back, because it is the right thing to do. I don't think anybody wants to have it on their conscience that somebody lost their home because of the property tax bills that they got, and that the legislators of the District of Columbia had a chance to do something about it and did not do anything about it. And frankly, if I was running against any one of them, which I'm not, of course, if I was running against any one of them that voted against it, that would be in every piece of literature that I sent out. Let me tell you what Councilmember X did. So I urge the council to bring it back and do something about it. That's two. You better get 5 more people, okay? I think that our future is bright, and that's why I implemented one of the most comprehensive and ambitious citywide sustainability plans in the world. And that's not an overstatement. It really is. The Sustainable DC Plan is award-winning. That makes the district the healthiest, greenest, and most livable city in the country. It has 32 goals, 31 targets, 143 specific actions in the area of the built environment, energy, food, nature, transportation, waste, and water. On Earth Day, we had earlier this year, back in April, we had already achieved 83% of the Sustainable DC actions. Well, they were already underway, let me put it that way. 27 agencies are directly involved in implementing actions, and my administration advanced several strategic pieces of legislation to support the mission of Sustainable DC, including the Ban on Combustion of Coal Act, the Community Renewables Act, and 2 omnibus packages of legislation, the Sustainable DC Act of 2012 and the Sustainable Amendment Act of 2014. And we also, that bill phases out styrofoam, use of styrofoam in the District of Columbia. And this is one where I want to commend the council. Council did the right thing. They passed all of those bills, ladies and gentlemen, and it advances our cause of sustainability here in the District of Columbia. We also invested in innovative projects that demonstrate the district's commitment to sustainability, including smart roof analysis for all district buildings, a piloted composting program. Do you know we have anti-idling devices on our police cars now? They really are interesting. I mean, when we introduced those about a year and a half ago, you listen. They basically run off of a battery, and you'll see it recharging itself. The car will actually start up itself to recharge itself. What was that show that used to be on where the car basically ran itself? What was the car's name? Kit? Yeah, Knight Rider. That's what it was. Knight Rider. That's exactly what it was. Well, you know what? This was like Knight Rider, except we had 100 Knight Riders and kits out there. We've also planted 100 new trees, and we also aim to reduce energy consumption in the District of Columbia government facilities by 20%. By 20%. By 20%. by 2020, and save the District of Columbia more than $10 million annually. By the way, we've estimated that with our early implementation that we've already saved taxpayers $2.1 million in reducing greenhouse gas emissions by more than 13,000 tons. Do the math on that one. That's a lot of tonnage, isn't it? That's a lot of weight, man. And we also have the District of Columbia's energy now, virtually all of it is coming from renewable sources. So we're doing well on being able to build a sustainable future for our city, and we are getting national and international recognition for that. We, by the way, were named one of the three most sustainable cities in the nation by the 5-Star Communities rating system. It awarded us the highest 4-star rating to date. And those, we did better than Austin, Texas, South by Southwest, and we did better than Portland, Oregon, which is noted for its sustainability efforts. And we also finished #1 for the 3rd consecutive year in the United States Environmental Protection Agency's annual Green Power Community Challenge, with the highest annual green power usage community-wide. We also have surpassed 100 million square feet of LEED certified space in the District of Columbia, and we're continuing to do that. All of our buildings, by the way, now, everything we build is LEED certified. And we actually have 3 other cities that we're in competition with, 3 biggies, New York City, Chicago, and Houston. We're a big company there, right? But we're holding our own, ladies and gentlemen. We also are building a safe city, and I stand before you tonight to be able to talk about the fact that we are a safe city, that we are doing well. And I don't think we've ever been safer, frankly. Our administration has been focused on achieving success and building on significant gains that the district has made in safety in recent years. I want to commend Deputy Mayor Quander and Chief Lanier. Deputy Mayor Quander lives on the east end of the city, by the way. We've had huge drops in our homicides and homicide rates in the District of Columbia. The year before we came in, we had 132 homicides, and we in 2012 had 88 homicides. It went up last year. Everybody know why it went up? Because of what happened at the Navy Yard. We had 12 people who were murdered at the Navy Yard. And if you take that out, which you can't do, but that would have it close to what it was the previous year. We've We moved quickly to address what was a significant decline in MPD's ranks of sworn officers. That was on a trajectory to fall to levels that would be dangerous in the District of Columbia. So we have hired a number of new police officers that will help us with our nightlife in the District of Columbia because that's where a lot of people now come into the city for the nightlife. And we want people to feel safe when they come in and spend their hard-earned money in the District of Columbia. We want them to spend it all while they're here. We've revitalized the police academy, and again, we've hired 300 new officers to bring our police corps, up to 4,000 officers, which is the commitment that we made. We have a new, any of y'all seen the Tactical Village? Anybody seen the Tactical Village? That's really neat. You need to go down to the training academy to see that. It's like a miniature city that allows the new recruits, as well as seasoned officers, to be ready to face whatever challenges and threats they may face on the street. Before recent incidents, which we all know about in Ferguson, Staten Island, and Cleveland, brought issues to our attention about inequality and requiring, of course, that we think more critically about the way we police our cities. The Metropolitan Police Department, I don't know if you all saw this study, but the Metropolitan Police Department was assessed to be the most representative police force in the nation of the population that live in the District of Columbia. In essence, our police force and our population look essentially like one another, which is not a bad idea. That ought to be a strategy they use in Ferguson. Seems to me that is low-hanging fruit, and they ought to grab some of it. You know, we've also made historic investments in our fire and emergency medical services department. $21 million that's allowed us to upgrade our outdated fleet of medical and fire and emergency medical services. We had insufficient attention to our vehicles. In just the last 3 years, we have put into service 33 new ambulances, 10 new pumper engines, and 5 new ladder trucks to ensure the safety of our residents, with more on the way. We're also hiring and training new firefighters who have the necessary EMS skills to be able to work in a modern department, including, by the way, reinstituting the Fire Cadet Academy. Yeah. We had the last graduation right in this auditorium. There were 27 graduates. Every one of those young people was a graduate of one of our D.C. public high schools, ladies and gentlemen. And the day that they graduated, they went from making 21. These are young people who are 20 years old, 21 years of age. The day they graduated, they went from making $21,000 to $47,000 a year. That's not bad if you're 21 years old. We also, again, have focused a lot on our youth, our One City Youth Initiative, which is an anti-crime program that we designed and put in place for the summer months, and it's been so successful that we've now transformed it into a year-round program. It ensures seamless, efficient coordination between government, agencies, and our community-based organizations. So, again, we're proud to be able to have done that. And we got a lot of stuff going on, don't we? Yeah. You know what? And since I won't get this opportunity to do it again, I apologize to those of you all got to be someplace, all right? We really have focused on making the District of Columbia a place where also our returning citizens have a chance to be able to be respected and feel like they've got a real chance in the District of Columbia to be able to recapture their life. We've created a new We got a reentry one-stop center that is serving returning citizens with a multitude of services, including training, employment opportunities, and other city services that's located on Martin Luther King Avenue. Our Department of Corrections has done extremely well under the leadership of Tom Faust. Did anybody know when we came into office we had 2,400 people who were in the D.C. jail? Today, we now have 1,600 people in the D.C. jail. It's because crime is down and because Tom Faust's efforts have led to us being able to create a unique relationship where the Bureau of Prisons is serving a lot of our people, and they also pay us to serve some people who are in the Bureau of Prison system. Not bad, not a bad deal, right? And it's probably the best shape that our Department of Corrections has been in a very long time. So, wow, I got 52 more pages. No, I don't. Yeah, and I can see that look on your face. If you got 52 more pages, great. You'll be talking to yourself very shortly. You know, we've created new initiatives to combat domestic violence and sexual assault. We've added $7 million to the budget of our Office of Victim Services, and we've provided assistance now to 20,000 victims of violent crime in the District of Columbia. We can give money directly to them. And the improvements that have been made in our juvenile justice system are absolutely extraordinary. That doesn't get a lot of attention because, frankly, typically when you see something about the juvenile justice system, it's, you know, some kid has done something, left a group home or left, what used to be Oak Hill that doesn't exist anymore, or New Beginning. And you don't see that anymore. We've actually had a 40% reduction in the rearrest rate for youth in the care of the Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services. That is extraordinary, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of that is because we are, electronically monitoring a number of these young people and making life more livable for them and those who are in the community. We also have, we've worked hard to be able to move aggressively on transportation issues in the District of Columbia. We have a new 25-year Move D.C. plan that's been broken down into a 2-year increment, and there are a number of projects. We got 20 miles of new bike lanes in the District of Columbia, 9.3 miles of shared lanes, and we've got more lanes that are on the way. We've got our bike share program has added 102 new stations in the District of Columbia, and we now have 202 that are within the borders of the District of Columbia. Are you all aware that we now have 22,000 people who are members of our bike share program? It is, at least for the moment anyway, it's the largest bike share program in the nation. I'm sure New York City will pass us just on sheer numbers, but right now we are the largest in the nation. And they take about 9 million trips to date since we started. We also, we're working on streetcars, you all. We really are going to have a streetcar system in the District of Columbia. And we still are keeping hope alive, as Jesse Jackson would say. We're keeping hope alive that we will have a start date before the year is out. I'm not going to make that promise because I can't say that with any certainty at all. And I don't like to make promises that I don't think I can keep. But we're trying to be able to get there by the end of the year. So on that one, we'll keep hope alive. The 8th Street line hopefully will open as soon as possible, and hopefully the council will see fit to put money back into a streetcar program, because with the growing population that we have, you're going to need more alternative modes of transportation in the District of Columbia. And hopefully they will see the benefit of building the full streetcar system here in the District of Columbia. We work with our federal partners to ensure critical improvements in our region with the 11th Street Bridge. We are working to be able to, by the way, how many of you all use the 11th Street Bridge? I use it every day. And it really does. It has helped to keep the traffic out of our neighborhoods on the east end of the District of Columbia. And we've constructed a new local bridge, and we are moving now to be able to better connect the communities on both sides of the Anacostia River. And one of those projects that is getting underway, it'll take several years to get done, is the South Capitol Street Douglas Bridge, which will be right down there, by the way, by the new soccer stadium and national stadium. And you get the transportation system straight, and more people will want to come and spend their money on the Nationals and on the soccer team, which will make money for the District of Columbia. Now, we've worked hard to be a world capital and be a world-class city in every way. How many of you all have seen our taxi cabs recently? We used to have, I could have made the argument that we had the absolute worst taxi cab system in creation. We had every color of a taxi cab imaginable. It was like the rainbow of colors. And so I said, you know what, we got to do something about this. And we got Ron Linton involved in this, and we said we're going to have a uniform color system. And of course that was resisted by some. And it wasn't low-hanging fruit either, ladies and gentlemen. And we've done it, haven't we, Ron? We have about 50% of our cabs now that have a uniform color system. All of our cabs accept credit cards. And all the cabs by 2018 have to have the uniform color system. You know what else it prevents also? It also prevents these cabs from other jurisdictions coming in here and picking up people. But when we had all these colors, it didn't matter because people could hide. But it's going to get to a point now where if you don't have the red and gray cab, you got to go, man. And we got hack inspectors, right, Ron, that will address that. We also have, again, the credit cards. We have a universal taxi app that is being developed that will allow people to use technology to be able to get a taxi cab. And that will be available early in 2015. It will be. And so we are a reformed taxi cab industry. Do we have a ways to go? Absolutely we do. But we are much further along than we were 4 years ago with our taxi cab system. You know, I could talk a lot about our health care delivery system. You think about what we've done, and I know, Councilmember Alexander, you chair the Health Committee. I could talk about what we've done with the Affordable Care Act, what we've done with new clinics, and we are trying to keep our system on the cutting edge here in the District of Columbia. We have health insurance now that covers 95% of our adults and 97% of our children, which makes us number one in the nation with that. And by the way, we were very aggressive and effective in implementing the Affordable Care Act. We were one of only 4 states in the nation, that actually on October 1st, 2013, was up and running and effectively ready, and we have been ever since. And by the way, are you all aware that we cover the Congress and all the staff that work up there? And President Obama is one of the members of our system here in the District of Columbia. That ain't low-hanging fruit either, ladies and gentlemen. Better get that one right. Our health exchange has served more than 63,000 people and businesses and owners who have chosen a health plan, including qualifying for Medicaid coverage as well in the District of Columbia. So as we move further along with our health care efforts in the District of Columbia, we also know that, not everything is perfect. And we've been working to continue to reduce our infant mortality rate, which when I was the director of DHS was off the charts. It was over 23 deaths per 1,000 live births. And we've worked hard. It's now been brought down to last measured was 7.9 but we know it's really at 6.6 for 2013. So we've made enormous progress, and we've developed a new initiative that by 2020 is designed to bring the infant mortality rate down to 5. So much for health. So much for health. Let me move on to the next area, and that is not only looking at what we do with infant mortality and other health issues, but they're trying to figure out where the heck I am at this stage. It's going up and down, you all. I kind of get carried away with this stuff because a lot of this stuff I kind of know off the top of my head. And this guy's sitting back there saying, what the hell is he, You're going the wrong way, dude. So we've also tried to work hard on homelessness in the District of Columbia, too. And that is one that has been one of the most difficult ones for us to tackle here in the District of Columbia. And we're doing much better to be able to address issues among families. And by the way, we're doing a lot better to address our HIV/AIDS epidemic in the District of Columbia as well. We got the report card from Appleseed yesterday, and while we haven't gotten an A in everything, we certainly have continued to improve. HIV/AIDS cases have declined by 42% in the District of Columbia, and those are the years. And by the way, we have a robust needle exchange program in the city also. We've seen an 81% decrease in new cases in the District of Columbia that are attributable to transmission of the virus through injection drug, using needles. And that was one that the Congress stopped us from being able to move forward with several years ago. It was when we got a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate that they removed the rider on our budget. I mean, it's just unbelievable, man, what the District of Columbia has to put up with. Something that is a proven prevention technique we're deprived of being able to use. And we know we've got the data that show that we've had such a reduction in new cases as a result of injection drug use that it should be inarguable that we would be able to use that. So we're working on treatment on demand for people to get into services in the District of Columbia. And I instituted a treatment on demand program that has helped improve the rate of those testing positive for HIV. And we, by the way, now are at 86% of people who get into services within a matter of 3 months. And on the financial side, is Wayne Turnage in here? Oh, great. I don't have any reservations about saying that, in my opinion, Wayne Turnage is the finest healthcare finance director in the nation. He has done an extraordinary job. Somebody told me when we came into office that we were getting a healthcare finance program turned over to us that was just like a Rolls Royce. I said, really? Well, somebody must have taken the tires off of that sucker, man, because it ain't running like a Rolls Royce to me. And Wayne in 4 years has done a phenomenal job. And it isn't just the Medicaid program. When you look at what's been done with wasting taxpayers' dollars on the personal care program, millions of dollars saved there. The fraud that was going on that was uncovered by Wayne and his staff has led to this program then being respected in ways that it had never been respected before. So, Wayne, thank you very much for what you have done for the taxpayers of the District of Columbia. And by the way, just yesterday we signed an agreement with Paladin and Howard University to enter an agreement to have Paladin take over the operation of the United Medical Center. Yes, people who are on the east end of the city need medical care. And they would like to have the medical care and the health care services right in their own community. And there were those who argued for the closure of the United Medical Center, Greater Southeast, whatever you choose to call it, but it is UMC. And the agreement that we entered into yesterday was to sell the operations. We didn't sell the hospital. We own the hospital. We own the ground the hospital sits on, but we sold the operations to Paladin. And Paladin, which now operates 4 hospitals in L.A., and has turned around those hospitals, will be responsible for continuing the work that's been done by Huron on our behalf in the District of Columbia. And that will result in a much more stable operation of the hospital, and by the way, will allow us to develop an integrated healthcare system for the first time in history on the east end of the city. We already have opened 3 new clinics, and we're going to open in the city. We've got commitments, financial commitments in the budget to open 2 or 3 more clinics that will then feed people who need to be in the hospital into UMC. What's shocking, frankly, is that 85% who live in the catchment area, of the people who live in the catchment area of UMC, don't use UMC. They go to other hospitals in the District of Columbia because of their historic lack of faith in the hospital. But things are changing down there. I was down there on Saturday, weren't we? I was down there on Saturday for a lady's birthday. There was a lady who lives in the nursing home portion of the hospital. She was turning 107 years of age. And I'll tell you one thing, she was about as lucid as anybody in this audience. She had been a DCPS teacher. Can you believe she retired in 1974? How long ago was that? 26 and 14. What is that? 40 years ago? Somebody retired 40 years ago. And she told us about her husbands. She said she had been married 3 times. And she told us how she ran them off. One of them had a gambling problem. One of them drank too much. And I can't even remember what the third one was, but whatever it was, she ran him off also. And she has done extremely well. You know, again, as I finish up here, and I've gone longer than I wanted to, but you know what? I ain't coming back to do this again, so. So thank you all very much for indulging me, all right? You know, DHS, Department of Human Services, which I used to be the director of, was for 4 years, is a very difficult agency. And we've really worked hard to overhaul the TANF program. The District of Columbia was the only state in the nation that did not implement the new federal regulations back in 1996. And what we've done with the leadership of our deputy mayor, with the leadership of David Burns, who has now gone back to Michigan, and Deborah Carroll, who is now the acting DHS director, what they did was really develop an entire new approach to how we administer the TANF program in the city. And we've done assessments on almost 20,000 people in the city. And what we're doing is working to try to get people a job. Wouldn't you think people would want to get a job in the District of Columbia if they're on welfare? But we have, unfortunately, in our benevolence, we have encouraged people to remain dependent. And as a result, the program became something that people did not even think about getting off of. Once you were on it, you were on it. And so now people who are on for 5 years will have their monthly check reduced. And the idea is you continue to get income, but you're also expected to do something so that you get yourself to another place. So again, we've done almost 20,000 of our customers, and we have moved, by the way, 6,900 people off of welfare and into work in the District of Columbia. And we've been trying to get families. I think the most difficult challenge we've had is dealing with homelessness among families in the District of Columbia. We launched the 500 Families in 100 Days program, and we started that, BB, in April, I think it was. We started in April, and we've now identified over 900 apartments to be able to move people into 941, and we've placed 464 families into permanent housing so that folks don't get stuck in that unending cycle once they become homeless. So we're also working to get our veterans off the streets. And Matt Carey, I want to thank you for the work that you've done to be able to make that happen. And we just broke ground on a new facility, on a new apartment. I won't call people's home a facility. We just broke ground on a new apartment building on North Capitol Street, right just above K Street, that will house a number of our homeless veterans, because people should not serve their country and come home to having no place to live and no job. How can America say it's all that and permit stuff like that to happen? You know, we're good about saying we all that, aren't we? We can tell how everybody else how to do its business, and then we don't do our own business here in America. And frankly, there are other ways in which America doesn't do its business the way it should. So let me. I know I've said this before. Let me mention a couple of other things, and then I'm going to quit. Remember the federal shutdown last year? Wasn't that unconscionable? Well, we've got to be able to continue to wage the fight. And by the way, Brenda, I want to congratulate you on your new appointment, and I want to thank you for what you've done with our child welfare system in the District of Columbia. I think people thought LaShawn would never be solved. And I think we're not a year away from, I think we're months away from that one being another court order that will be vacated, that will be exited in the District of Columbia, because we have probably some of the lowest numbers in the history of the District of Columbia in terms of children in foster care. What are we down to, about 1,100 at this point? We were at 3,300 children at one point in foster care, and it's now down to 1,100. And frankly, we got fewer and fewer, because I look at the data and I watch the ages of those kids who are going in, and there's fewer and fewer very young children who are going into care at this point. In fact, in another year or two, when those 18 and 19-year-olds move out, the numbers will go well down below 1,000 and much more manageable. So thank you, Brenda, for what you have done to be able to make that happen. I want to move now to the next area, and that's the end of this saga. I was going to talk about social impact bonds, but I think I won't do that. Anybody know what social impact bonds are? And you probably don't even want to know at this stage, right? got tremendous potential for solving teen pregnancy in the District of Columbia. It's a very unique thing. We'll talk about that on another day, all right? And so I want to go on down now. I am not good for these folks, man, because I see something up here I want to talk about, and I just talk about it. And they're trying to follow a script that we laid out, and then they go again like, where is this dude? I can't figure out where he is at this point. I hope what's been obvious that we have achieved a lot in the 4 years of this administration, more probably than what we could have hoped for. And we've not shied away from taking on the difficult problems, the difficult challenges in the city. We've tried to take on the tough problems head on. Many of those involve the lawsuits. And Irv, I want to thank you again for being a great Attorney General in the District of Columbia. We've talked about a lot of those cases. You know, when 4 years ago, when I was able to get Irv to come in and talk about this job, because Irv he's an incredible attorney. He is absolutely incredible. And so I didn't believe he was even going to come in for the interview. But I had an interview with somebody right before him, And so this person who was a very accomplished jurist, attorney, he said, is it true that Irv Nathan is a candidate for this job? And I said, well, I can't answer that question. That would be, a violation of confidence. And the guy said, well, if he is, I think I would hire him if I were you and not me. So Irv has helped us to close out a lot of cases, and I appreciate him coming tonight to be a part of this effort. All right. I'm going to go down now to the recommendations for the future, and we'll do those pretty quickly. At least I think I'll do them pretty quickly. By the way, for those of you who follow mental health, we got out of that case also last year, the Dixon case, which we've been in for 40 years. We're going to go down to the recommendations now. As we close this out, and there's a lot of other stuff that I could have talked about, including our Bloomingdale work to get rid of the flooding in Bloomingdale, which is incredible. Thank you, Mr. Branham. Also, what we've done with undergrounding of wires. That is an initiative that really is, for those of you who don't know how that happened, Victor and I went to China back in 2012. And when I got home, it must have been 99 degrees outside. And I was riding home, and I said, oh, Lord, please don't let my power be out. Please don't. And, of course, when I got home, the power was out. And my home was like an oven. And it wasn't the first time that it happened to me. And so it caught me on just the right day. And so I called up the Pepco people, and I said, you know what? As the mayor of the District of Columbia, we've got to do something to solve this. Because if we don't solve this, I promise you I will kill you. Very compelling argument, ladies and gentlemen. The penalty of death will get people's attention every time. Anyway, we were delighted to be able to work with Pepco, work with our Public Service Commission, work with our People's Council that don't often talk to one another. Councilmember Alexander was on the task force that we put together. And we developed an approach that we put before the council. It was approved in February of this year, and it will underground it would be $1 billion investment, and will underground the most challenging feeders in the District of Columbia. If you want to talk about what feeders are. Y'all notice that there never seem to be any power outages in downtown Washington. The reason is because all of those wires are underground. 70% of the wires in the city already are underground. It's the perimeter, the oldest neighborhoods in some respects in the District of Columbia, that the wires are not underground. And so this will put 60 of the most vulnerable feeders underground and will make a much more reliable electric power system in the District of Columbia. So I think somebody, I don't know how many of you all participate in the Kennedy School of Government stuff, at Harvard University. But this would be a great study to be able to put together, and not just in terms of the outcome, but the process. How do you get such strange bedfellows into the same room and come out with a constructive solution as they did? And you've got other jurisdictions that are grappling with this, and they have not come to anything that would be close to a solution. So let me move down to the recommendations now, kind of the conclusion, I guess. So thank you. I probably will never get them to do anything for me again, and with good reason. I could talk about the openness and transparency of the government. I'm not going to do that because we've gotten well into this, and time to be able to conclude it. So keep going, sir. I'll know when you get there. By the way, you all know we have 660,000 people who live in the District of Columbia now. Woo. You know, today we celebrate what I think is an extraordinary set of accomplishments by the most talented group of people I've ever worked with in my life. And they're actually fun to be around. Isn't it great to go to work and be able to be with people that you like, and be able to be with people who are focused and who really want to get stuff done, who take seriously, you know, what a strategic plan is. So I've shared with you what can be done when you have a talented group of people together, working with one another to be able to make happen what can happen in the city. In just 4 short years, we have been able to accomplish much of what you've already heard about. And he's still struggling back there to keep up with me. I'm back up with him now. So, in just 4 short years, you've seen what can happen when you assemble a great team to work on behalf of the District of Columbia. And that's what meaningful and intensive and inclusive change is really about. And that's what's made this job fun on most days for me. Based on, you know, my experience as a council member and a council chair, and in the last 4 years as the mayor of the District of Columbia, we have a few areas that we can't waver on as we move forward. We've got to be able to continue our commitment to fiscal responsibility. No matter how hard those choices may be, we've got to make sure that we continue to commit to having structurally balanced budgets in the District of Columbia. And I know that there are people who will make the argument about raising the debt cap in the District of Columbia. Bad idea, ladies and gentlemen. Bad idea. The bond rating agencies won't come in here and say don't do it. They will just send you a message and our bonds being downgraded as a result of that. That will affect us in our pocketbook and it will affect our reputation, right, Jeff, in the financial markets. So it also will raise our debt service payments, which then would pretty much eclipse our budget. If we don't maintain our fiscal health, it doesn't matter. The rest of it will suffer badly as a result of that. Secondly, we've got to continue to grow and diversify our district economy. We're long past the time when we can count on the federal government to be able to do these things for us. They're not going to be the engine of our economy anymore. And we have to continue to be able to invest in new sectors like technology. Third, we have got to make sure that we use every tool in our toolbox to keep the district a place that is socio-economically and racially diverse, ladies and gentlemen. We don't want to see us become a monolithic District of Columbia. We've got to continue to invest in affordable housing, tax relief for seniors, tax relief for seniors. Tax relief for seniors. And also, I think, early childhood education, because that is the future of our city. If we get our kids fully educated, we will be okay. And you talk about an antidote for poverty. That is an antidote for poverty, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, I would invite the council, I'd invite the next administration to come back to the question about the Height Act in the District of Columbia. I happen to be a proponent. We had a congressman who was ready to give us the authority to make decisions about heights in certain areas of the District of Columbia, and there were some who didn't want it. It wasn't like we had to change any heights. We can't change the height now as long as the Congress has that authority, which they have. And it was rejected. It was Darrell Issa, Congressman Issa, who I've enjoyed working with. He helped us, by the way, during the shutdown, and helped us in a number of other ways. And he wanted to help us get this done, and it didn't happen. And we ought to be able to decide for ourselves what we want to do with the heights in the District of Columbia. All you got to do is look across the bridge into Roslyn and see the heights of those buildings over there. And there are people who don't want to raise the heights, of course, but we ought to have the authority ourselves to make those decisions. It shouldn't be a situation in which somebody else has to save us from ourselves. So a part of all of that, too, will have a role to play in the cost of housing. And if we fail to consider those things, we will, in effect, be driving up the price of housing. We can't falter on school reform either in the District of Columbia. We've got to continue our efforts around school reform. There's a lot of hard work that's been done, and we need to continue to focus on that. It's not something that's going to be done. It can't be done overnight, but we're so much further along than we were in 2007 when this journey was started. So I ask folks to pay attention to that, and let's stay the course in terms of reforming our education system. Also, governing a city, fifth, requires some real and some tough decisions. If your goal is to make everyone happy, you're in the wrong line of business, you all. You're just not going to be able to do it. There are people who are going to get so mad, and some of them are your friends. They will get so mad with you, they'll curse you out. And, and you just grab them and hug them and say, I'm sorry you feel that way, but let me tell you why I took the position that I did. And it doesn't always solve the problem, but it certainly does give you an avenue to continue to talk with people, because disciplined decisions are in the interest of the District of Columbia, and we need to continue to do that. And then sixth, or last, our residents deserve unprecedented openness and transparency. As just one small example, for 4 years, I have held a press conference every other week with the press. And if you think I wanted to look at them every 2 weeks, you got another thing coming. But you know what? I'd rather face it. I'd rather deal with whatever they have on that particular day. And I'm not afraid of the questions. I know the answers to the questions. Now, they may have a different point of view than I do, but you know what? That's okay, too. I know what the answers are to the questions. I work long hours, for those of you who don't know that, and I spend a lot of my time trying to make sure I understand what's going on in this city. We have 33,000 people who live in the district, who work for the District of Columbia, and that is a very there's no government more complicated than this one, because we are a state, county, and city all rolled in to one. So you want to maintain openness, you want to maintain accessibility, you want to maintain accountability, because that is the condition that will be important to our people. The last thing I want to say is, and it really is the last, okay, and that is we can't give up on self-determination in the District of Columbia. It is incredibly offensive that we have to have a congresswoman who is as able or more able than everybody else up there, but when comes time to cast a vote on things that affect her city, she has to sit on the sidelines. It doesn't make sense that we have to send our budget up to people who can't even balance a budget themselves, and we have to send our budget up to them to make a decision on our budget. It doesn't make sense that we have to send all of our laws up to the Congress to be approved, because we know more about these laws. Y'all have seen this issue with this, the dude down there from the Eastern Shore in Maryland who wants to tell us how to run our marijuana business in the District of Columbia. I'd like to send him a memo and say, man, what you been smoking? But it's offensive. It is offensive, and it won't change until we have the wherewithal and the willingness to stay the course, ladies and gentlemen, to fight for what we rightfully deserve. It is I call it the hypocrisy of democracy. And that is, America goes everywhere. It goes to Syria, it goes to Iran, it goes to Afghanistan, and we can tell everybody else how to do our business, their business, but then people come home to the District of Columbia and they don't enjoy the same rights that America purports to stand for and to fight for in other countries on behalf of other people. So I want to thank you all very much for being on this journey with me for the last 4 years. Thank you for coming tonight. God bless the District of Columbia, and let's continue to fight for the city that we love. Thank you all very much.